emerging from the shadow of China. So there is one interesting thing about the independence of Vietnam and independence of our country. Well, Vietnam got its independence 2 years before us, right? And that is in 1945, but it took 30 long years for Vietnam to become a republic. Now this is exactly what we are going to learn in this chapter, that how did Vietnam get its independence and what took it so long to become a republic even after it being independent by 1945, and how did Vietnam get colonized, and how did the concept of nationalism emerged in the backdrop of colonial domination. So before learning about Vietnam, let us understand what is Indochina. So it consists of modern day Vietnam and Laos and Cambodia. So as you can see here in the map, so we have the Indian Ocean over here, over here, and we have China. So and this whole peninsular region used to be under the huge empire of China, and this colored region that you are seeing, this is called Indochina, and it used to consist countries like the red in the red color we have Vietnam, in green we have Laos, and in purple we have Thailand. So this used to be known as Indochina. So this was the face of Indochina back then, right? So but the thing is, they were under the strong powerful empire of China, and whatever the face of Vietnam that we are seeing today, it is the result of the struggle against the colonization, right? So we will learn about the struggle of Vietnam, and in the next chapter we have to learn about the nationalism in India. So please keep in mind that we have to compare as well, so please read both of the chapters keeping this thing in mind, right? So I told you that it is the modern day Laos, Cambodia and Vietnam, and they were all under the Chinese empire. And even after Vietnam got its freedom and has become what is now called northern and central Vietnam, it continued to have the Chinese system of governance, and they continued to follow the Chinese culture. So they were influenced by China, right? And talking about Vietnam, it was also linked to maritime Silk Route. You must have learnt about it in your previous books, right? And for trade to the Khmer Cambodians, they were the non-Vietnamese people. So both of these were the link between Vietnam and other parts of the world for the exchange of trade, for exchange of goods, peoples and ideas, right? But the question is, how did Indochina get colonized? And who colonized it? So it was France who colonized Indochina, and they came in this region in 1858. But the thing is, earlier they had been coming to explore for trade and to make profit. But then they made up their mind that they want to have a base in this region so that they can enhance their profit even more. So they started to extend their grip over the whole of the northern region. And by 1880s they had completely done it, right? And also they fought with the Chinese. It was called Franco-Chinese War. And in 1887 they took control over important places in Vietnam, Tonkin and Annam, right? And then they formed the French Indochina, and then they started to accumulate more and more power. But the Vietnamese were naturally not happy about it, so they fought against the French. They resisted against the French domination, and so nationalism in Vietnam began. But France did not only colonize Vietnam militarily or economically, it also tried to shape the very culture of Vietnam. Now this is very important to understand. When somebody, some foreign power comes into your country and tries to influence your culture, tries to change your culture, it is very important, because culture depicts your very identity, right? So the French also did try to change their culture, change their identity, right? But the question is, why did the French think that colonies were necessary, right? what was the need to have colonies? They were the country themselves. They could have simply lived in their own country. They could have simply enjoyed their lives in their own country. What was the need to have colonies? So one of the major reasons why all the European powers have colonized the third world countries is because of their natural resources. They are very greedy about the natural resources, because the Europeans simply they are a little bit behind of the third world countries, and the French also thought that it would be good for their the supply of natural resources and other essential goods, right? And another reason was the notion called white man's burden. Now I'll explain you what is white man's burden. So they used to think that they are the developed ones because of industrial revolution and all that they had experienced, and they used to think that they were quite advanced and modern, and that this benefit should be transferred to the so-called backward people. So they used to think that the people of the third world as backward ones, and they used to think about themselves that they are the civilized ones, and they are right. So this is what it is called. And so in order to facilitate all of this, they started to develop the economy of Vietnam by increasing the cultivation of rice and all that. So they started to build canals in Mekong Delta. They started to do the irrigation works, like the making of canals and earthworks, and also included forced labor as well. Now this was very important because the Vietnamese were forced to provide their labor in the French idea of increasing the cultivation, and all of this did increase the rice production. um, um, and by 1931, two-thirds of the rice production was exported, and Vietnam had become the third largest exporter of rice in the world. And all the so-called infrastructure projects, they were not done only because of Vietnam. The French wanted Vietnam to become modernized, but they wanted to control the entire region. They wanted to do it because they wanted to transport their goods and for trade. They wanted to move their military garrisons. So all of this were done in order to enhance the French control over the entire region, right? And a Trans-Indo-China rail network was also created. It facilitated to connect the northern and southern part of Vietnam and also to China. And the final link with Yunnan in China was completed by 1910. And they also created the second link of Indo-China rail network. It connected Vietnam to Siam. Now Siam is the former name of Thailand, right? And the French started to pressurize the government to develop further infrastructure by 1920s. And also these were the reasons why the French wanted to colonize Vietnam. One was to have their natural resources, and another was the white man's burden, right? But there was an issue. Everyone knew that colonies had to serve the so-called mother country. That is the country which colonized the other country. It was known as the mother country, and that their existence is only to serve the country which had colonized it. But the question was how and to what extent colonies should be developed. Right. So there was a very influential writer and policymaker back then called Paul Bernard. He was of the opinion that colonies must be developed, but he also said that the only reason of acquiring colonies was to make profits. So the development of colonies was not for the colonies good or their betterment. It was to make more and more profits for the colonizers, right? And he said that if the economy will be developed, then the French's purpose of acquiring more and more profit will be facilitated by it. So if the economy will be developed, the standard of living of the people will improve, and they will buy more and more goods, right? And then their spending capacity will increase, which will lead to the expanding of the market, and it will bring more and more profit to the French businesses. But Bernard also noted that there were several barriers to economic growth, like the high population levels in Vietnam and low agricultural productivity, and a huge amount of indebtedness among the peasants. So what was the solution? The solution was put forth to bring the land reforms, to reduce the rural poverty and to increase the agricultural productivity. But all of this did not ensure sufficient employment. So industrialization was proposed based on the Japanese model, as Japan had done it in its own country, to create more and more jobs. Right. And talking about the economy of Vietnam, it was usually about rice cultivation and rubber plantation, and this was owned by the French only and a small Vietnamese elite. Right. And whatever the developmental projects were done, like the setting up of a rail and port facility, they were set up to service this sector only, and the reason behind doing it was to develop the so-called was to facilitate the so-called French, that they can have more and more profit from this. And also there was another very controversial kind of labor which Vietnamese had to undergo. It was called indentured labor. It was a kind of labor where there used to be contracts between the laborer and the employer, and the laborer were not given any rights, but a great amount of power were given to the employer. So the employer could do anything. They could even punish the labor for the non-fulfillment of the contracts, right? So whatever Bernard had suggested about industrializing the economy of Vietnam, the French did little towards it, and which led to the spread of landlordism in rural areas, which resulted in the poor standard of living among the people. Right. So the Vietnam was exploited not just economically, but they were also exploited with the French idea of civilizing them, and we will learn about it in the. Telling you that the French were of the opinion that they were the harbinger of modernity. They are the torchbearer of modernity, and their civilization is the advanced one, and that they should bring that modern civilization to the Vietnamese with their so-called civilizing mission, right? So they thought that it was their duty to introduce modern ideas to their colonies, and their intention of making the Vietnamese modern, that they were not even bothered if their local cultures, if their tradition, if their religion, they were distracted with their civilizing mission, because the French thought that they were outdated and that they prevented the modern development. So what was the solution? Well, education was one way to do it. Education was a tool to civilize the native, means those people who were the Vietnamese. But it was not that easy. They had one dilemma, and it was a very strong dilemma. They had a great confusion about how should education be used in Vietnam. The dilemma was how far should the Vietnamese be educated, right? And they wanted to educate the Vietnamese because the French needed educated local labor force, and that they will learn about the French and their system of working, and their work will become more efficient, right? But at the same time, they also feared that they will lose their jobs to the educated Vietnamese. They will become the teachers, they will become the shopkeepers and policemen, right? And they will lose their jobs to them. So they opposed the policies which were aimed at giving full access to the French education to the Vietnamese. But merely education was not enough, and if the Vietnamese were to be modernized, they also had to look and to talk modern, right? So how did this turn up? Well, I told you how the Indochina region was influenced by the Chinese culture, and the Vietnamese elite especially, they were influenced by Chinese culture. They used to speak the Chinese language and they used to follow the Chinese culture. I told you about this, right? And how the Chinese culture was significant in Vietnam. So if the French really wanted to have power in that region, in Vietnam, they must counter this Chinese influence. So what did they do? Well, they started to destroy the traditional educated system and they started to set up French schools. But there was again another dilemma. Now, if they are to taught a language, which language should that be? And if you want to talk, if you want to instruct, in which language they must be taught? So, which language will replace the Chinese? This was the biggest question. So, this was the catch-22 that they were facing: Vietnamese language versus the French language as the medium of instruction. So, now you will wonder what were the solutions, right? Well, there were two major solutions, there were two broad opinions about it. One was to make French as the medium of instruction. Right, so those who supported it, they said that Vietnamese, if they learn different language, the French language, they will understand their French culture and their civilization. They will appreciate the French culture and civilization more. So the Vietnam would become Asiatic France, and which would be solely tied to European France, and also they will understand the superiority of French culture, and they will respect their sentiments and ideas, and that they will have no problems working for the French, right? But there were opposing voices too. They were against the French being made the only medium of instruction. They were of the opinion that Vietnamese must be taught in the lower classes and French must be taught in the higher classes, and that those who learned the French and those who adopted the French culture, they must be rewarded with the French citizenship. Right, so it was one way to show that how France was superior, how French culture and French language was superior than the Vietnam's ones. Right, so and all of this were not done with only the good faith, only the good intentions. So in this lesson, I told you about France and French people and how they were against the concept of education for the Vietnamese, because they feel now the Vietnamese were being educated and naturally they will demand jobs after that. But the French did not want this to happen. So what did they do? Well, they made a policy of failing students. So what used to happen that only a very small fraction of Vietnamese population could get admission in the schools, and they were the elites, right? And a very few of them could pass the school leaving examination. And you'll be shocked to know that 2/3 of the students used to fail in that exam. In 1925 itself, out of the 17 million population, only 400 could pass the examination. And this was all done deliberately, this was all done intentionally to deny them the better paid jobs, right? So we can understand how far this civilization mission was preempted, how farcical was it, how fake was it, and they were only they they were only the school texts, they were only glorifying the French and they were only justifying the colonial rule. They were showing that the Vietnams were the backward people, the Vietnamese were looked down upon, they were primitive people, and they were only capable of manual labor, and that they were not intellectually sound, right? So they could only work in the field and they can't rule themselves, and they were even termed as skilled copies, that they can only copy something skillfully, and they were not creative people. And the textbooks used to say that only the French rule can ensure peace within Vietnam, because Vietnam were apparently having a peace time at that time, And textbooks used to say that Vietnam uh, is no longer living in fear, um, in the constant threats of the pirates, and it is only because of the establishment of French rule. And it is the calm is complete, and the patients can work with a good heart. So all in all, the education was the propaganda. The education was the tool for propaganda, and that propaganda was to justify the French rule and to glorify them and to prove that they were the primitive people, they were the backward people, so they cannot question the French colonialism. So I told you that having only education to become modern, and to become civilized was not enough. They had to talk more modern. They had to talk. Uh, they had to look modern so as to be modern. And there were two principles to be modern. One was learning the modern ideas, and another was to look modern. So how did it happen? We'll learn about it. So in Tonkin, a Tonkin Free School was started in 1907 to provide the Western style education, that is the French style education. And the subjects like science, hygiene, and French were taught, and they were paid for separately, right? So in order to look modern, what they do, they encouraged the adoption of short haircut to the Vietnamese. What is traditionally Vietnamese used to have long haircut, so this was attempted to break them from their own identity. So to leave their own identity only to look modern, and that modern which was the concept of the French. But it was not so that every ridiculous things done by French were tolerated. The teachers and the students did not used to blindly follow whatever the French used to say and whatever they used to enforce through the curriculum. There used to be open opposition as well as silent resistance. So what happened was that Vietnamese teachers had increased in the lower classes, and it became really difficult for the French to keep an eye on them and to control every activity of theirs. So the teachers used to quietly change the text and criticize whatever was written in the text, because as I already told you that the school textbooks used to very glorify the French and look down upon the Vietnamese. So they used to criticize all of that. And a very important incident happened in 1926 in Saigon Native Girls School. So a girl was asked to go back to the back of the class, and a French student was allowed to sit, and it was refused. The principal expelled the girl. There was protests, and all of the students were expelled too. But the government said that they had to take back the students, so they did. But the principal was very arrogant. He said that he will crush all the Vietnamese under his feet. So this was the kind of arrogance that the French people used to have, right? Uh, but these students had fighting against their denial of white collar jobs. They were of the notion that it was their duty, and it did not go down well with the French as well as the traditional elites, because they thought that their position were threatened. Their position were, they might lose their power which they used to enjoy. So but the students were forming political parties as well. So in 1920s, a party was formed called Party of Young Annan. They were making nationalist journals as well, like the Annamese Student, right? So the schools became the political and cultural battlefield, right? And this was and in and the French had did everything to make sure that the people believe in the superiority of French civilization, and they looked down upon them as the inferiors. But the Vietnamese intellectuals saw this as their loss of territory as well as their identity. They saw that their culture and their customs were trivialized, and that a sense of master slave mentality was being developed among the people. So all of this were resisted in the schools, and the schools become very important in their struggle against the French domination, right? So but this was not the I was telling you about how education was not the only way and not the only aspect where Vietnam was experiencing colonialism and were posing resistance in the same field. So the Vietnamese expressed their anger against the French in many other simplest ways in life, health and hygiene. health and hygiene were used against the colonials, right? And you will be shocked to know that rats were the tool of resistance against the French. Well, the story is quite funny, so we will look at it now. So what happened was that the French wanted to develop Vietnam for their own good, right? So in order to do that, they did one thing. They decided to rebuild Hanoi. I told you that Hanoi is a very important city in North Vietnam. So they use the latest ideas about the modern architecture and engineering skills and use them all to rebuild Hanoi to make it a modern city, to make it a new developed city. Right? But in 1903, a really bad thing happened in Hanoi, and it experienced the worst kind of bubonic plague in that year. Now, what is bubonic plague? Well, it is a serious bacterial infection and it has flu-like symptoms, and it is spread by fleas which were living on the rats. Right, so the French were experiencing the rats problem in Vietnam, in Hanoi. And it is really interesting to know that in other colonial countries, that is the other countries which were in the rest of the world where this thing happened, it led to the social conflicts in those countries. But in Hanoi, it was a tool for colonial resistance, right? And plague is a really bad event which happened in the world history during the 1300s and 1400s. The experience of worst kind of plague which killed third of Europe's population, right? And it was known as a Black Death. It was a great nuisance back then, right? So the French made Hanoi into a really beautiful city, a very clean city, which was only restricted to the French part of the city, and it was really beautiful, it was really clean, and it had wide avenues and well laid out sewer system, right? And the native quarter where the Vietnamese people used to live, they were not provided with any modern facilities. So their waste and their refuses, where will they go? Well, they will get drained to the rivers only, right? And when heavy rains used to happen and the city used to experience floods, all that dirty water used to overflow in the streets, and this was the cause of plague, because those were well laid out sewer system, they were the ideal breeding grounds for the rats. They became the ideal place for the rats to live, and it provided the rats a great transport system to go from one part of the city to another hassle free. So it was the rats who were actually enjoying the development of the French, right? And they used to enter into this amazing homes that different part of the city, that the French part of the city had, through the sewage pipes. No one can stop the rats to move, right? So whatever the hygienic environment that the French city was made up of, it became the very cause of the plague. So the government, the French people, they came up with the solution of a rat hunt, and that the rat should be hunted and killed. So in 1902, they started with the rat hunt, and this work was again given to the Vietnamese. The Vietnamese had to hunt the rats. They were hired for it, and they were paid for each rat that they used to catch, and thousands of rats were caught, but it was of no use. And this whole scenario gave a great opportunity for the Vietnamese to opt for a collective bargaining for higher bounty for the rats. Can you imagine that? So they actually negotiated for the price for the rat hunt with the French, and the French had to take care of it. And the bounty was given if the tail of the rat was given as a proof for a killed rat. So, being encouraged by the higher bounty negotiated with the French, the Vietnamese people looked for newer ways to profit from this amazing situation that they had found. So you laugh at it when you would know that the rat catchers used to simply clip the tail of the rat, and they used to leave the rat to get advantage of their regrown tail again and again. Now, and not just that, many people started to even raise the rat to have a bounty in return from them, right? So this was the everyday resistance that I was talking about, that the French, that the Vietnam is posed to the French, and the French really got defeated by the resistance of the weak, that is of the Vietnamese. The French were then forced to end this bounty program, to scrap this bounty program, and but the plague did not stop. It continued in the next years, which swept the area in 1903. But this rat menace really did weaken the French power. Just imagine how you could think that something as simple as the rat's problem in a particular place can act as a tool to reduce the colonial domination. So these were the kind of things that the Vietnamese used to do to resist the colonials.